Are you guys ready? Lee, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. We are going to call this workshop of the Martin County School Board to order. If you would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Falls, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Roberts?
Here.
Mrs. Powers?
Here.
Mrs. Pritchett?
Here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here. Please let the record show that Mr. DiTerlizzi is absent today. Thank you. At this time, we will have open to the public. Citizen input is vital to the improvement of our district. Most times, your remarks may be listened to without comment from the board members or superintendent. This does not mean they are heard with any less intensity or concern. Where appropriate, the superintendent and staff will investigate your comments and report back to you and the board with an answer. We thank you for taking the time and having the concern to make our district better. Your presentation to the board should not exceed 3 minutes. Letters or statements from others not present can be given to our clerk, who will be sure that each school board member and the superintendent receive a copy. To keep our records straight and authentic, our policy does not permit you to read the statements of others into the record. First up, Rich Schoenborn. Come forward.
Good afternoon. I'm Rich Schoenborn, and I'm here to in support of the Martin County High School pool. The pool, as many of you are aware, has had and continues to have a vital and vibrant and positive influence here in Martin County. Often on swim mornings, like yesterday morning, the pool, almost all of the pool lanes were filled with men and women swimming. Swimming in Martin County has been and continues to be the go-to sport for youth and for adults. Please, please keep the Martin County High School pool open. Martin County needs 2 competitive swimming pools. Please keep the high school pool open. Yesterday morning, the high school pool was filled with swimmers. Yesterday afternoon, the YMCA pool was filled with swimmers. On any given morning, the LA Fitness pool also has swimmers. Martin County needs a second competitive pool for swimming. Please keep the high school pool open. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Dick Landrum.
Good afternoon. I'm delivering you a proposal from the Martin County Masters team members regarding the idea to close the Martin County High School swimming pool. Our proposal has been endorsed by the families of the Martin County Swimming Age Group swimmers and the swimmers and families of the Martin County High School Swim and Dive team. We would like to discuss the ideas presented in a formal workshop environment with the parties I have listed on your cover letter, so that everyone has a chance to weigh in on the best use that the pool could have. Before deciding on the future of the pool, I would like you to fully investigate with all parties what it would be like to have all the swim programs at one pool. We think it's unsustainable. Along with other important things, swimming should be a Florida community specialty. Programs we would like to see re-implemented and implemented in Martin County are the weekend open swims, and the summer day open swims with very nominal fees, like 50 cents to $1 for adults, free to those with financial hardships. And we'd like to see the 3rd grade swim program reinstated. That ran from the 1970s until 2007, where we taught third graders how to swim and how to be safe around water. We'd like to see an adult learn to swim program implemented at a very nominal fee as well. I've been swimming at the Martin County High School pool most Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays since 1986. I have seen many swimmers enjoy their last years in better health through swimming and through the camaraderie of being in a very positive social environment. The country Finland has been in the news a lot lately since it was determined the happiest country on earth for the last 5 years. Many Finns have given advice to Americans on what we could do to be happier. Here's one list of 3 goals. Know yourself, be satisfied with yourself, and happy with what you're doing. Show up for your community. Every day, do things that make the world a better place for all things. Community swimming goes a long way towards reaching these goals. We need fewer pools. We don't need fewer pools. We need more pools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Heather Rogers.
Good afternoon. How many of you enjoy being in bumper-to-bumper traffic? How many of you enjoy sitting at multiple lights until you finally get through the intersection? That is how it feels to be a swimmer in a lane with a ton of kids. Only in the pool do you run the chance of getting kicked in the head or swam over for not keeping up with the traffic. I listened to the last emergency meeting regarding choice. One of the concerns was making sure kids were at the school all day to collect maximum dollars per student. By opening Martin County High School pool to be a full-time classroom, you have one more way to make money. I grew up in Palm Beach County and had swimming as one of my electives in high school. In a time when kids are glued to their devices and sitting on laptops for all of their assignments, wouldn't it be nice for them to learn a skill they can do for their entire life? Why not make the pool a place of learning? Swimming lessons are not cheap, and living in the 7th most expensive county in Florida makes it hard for families to afford these lessons. One thing we cannot afford is children drowning. As early as last year, we lost a 17-year-old due to a drowning at the beach. The district just ran one of your Facebook stories on being safe in the water over spring break. The large price tag you mentioned in a previous meeting is for all the work to be done at once in the pool. The lining doesn't need to be changed immediately. I would be curious to learn how much money the pool has cost you over the last 50 years versus how many deaths the pool has prevented by teaching kids to swim. Can you really put a sticker price on keeping children alive? I did reach out to the other high schools, and they have an average of 35 to 40 swimmers during high school swim season. So this upcoming fall, swim season at Sailfish Splash would include the Pine School, South Fork, Jensen Beach High School, and Martin County High School, all trying to train as well as compete in the same pool. Scheduling meets and training with that many kids would be a sure way to make the high school swim season pure chaos. There isn't transportation to Sailfish Splash during the high school swim season. That excludes too many kids from being a part of the swim team. Did you know not only swim team uses Sailfish Splash, they also need a place for water polo, synchronized swimming, master swimmers, and diving. And let's not forget club swimming, which is about 100 kids per team, and we currently only have 2 in Martin County. As a board member recently stated, we should preserve what we have. This is something I can agree on with him. Now, let's work together to ensure Martin County High School has another 50 wonderful years of swimming. One pool in a large county with all of this new construction doesn't make sense. Currently, there are homes being built on Willoughby, Cove, Canner, and Salerno. Where are all of those kids going to swim? Having a pool at Martin County High School adds interest to future students that may want to attend that high school. My own child has been a club swimmer at Martin County High School since she was in elementary school and couldn't wait to be a part of the high school team. My children both have participated in the cardboard boat races throughout their years in elementary careers, and it has been one of our family's most beloved events. Thank you.
Next up, Audrey Mims.
Hello, Dr. Main, school board members and staff, and the community. At the last workshop that I attended regarding the swimming pool, closing the pool was mostly due to the money. And what I'd like you to do is just take a look at Dick's proposals and see if there's another way we could, make it viable and be able to keep the pool open. We've had 2 meetings with Dr. Main to bring this 3rd grade program back at Martin County, teaching all 3rd graders to swim. But there's no, if we close the pool, where would the 3rd graders swim if we were bringing them in the summertime? We did talk about using Indiantown pool, the YMCA at Indiantown pool. Anyway, I really would like to keep the pool open. Number one, for selfish reasons. I love getting up at 4 in the morning and going swimming and getting my exercise done. Then I can go off and start my day. It's wonderful. Both my children, my daughters swam at Martin County High School. It's a wonderful experience to be able to get up and start your day with swimming. And for the community, you can go in on a Saturday and swim. I believe if we opened it more to the community, I know there's liability and there are reasons why we don't have it open, but those things I believe we could work through and figure out a way to have the pool open more accessible to the community. As a side note, there were some ladies that needed to learn to swim, but there wasn't a place available, so Dick used a private pool, to teach some ladies to swim, just because he's such a, everyone needs to know how to swim. So there are options that we could have adult swimming lessons as well as for the children. Please consider the proposal that Dick has given to you, and I hope you see it in your hearts and in your pocketbooks to be able to keep the pool open. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. We will be moving on to the district presentation, virtual school. Dr. Kennedy, would you like to come forward?
Good afternoon, Board Chair Russell, members of the board, and Superintendent Main. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy, and I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I'm hoping that this is good to go. Okay. Today, I'll be sharing with you a proposal to start our own virtual school program here in Martin County School District. For the purposes of this proposal, I will refer to this program as Martin County Virtual School. I will begin with a review of current funding, which is shared with Florida Virtual School, or FLVS, review of successful completions by our students enrolled in FLVS, examine the costs associated with beginning a Martin County Virtual School program, and make a final recommendation to the board using an estimated budget I have prepared based on historical data. Beginning in a 2013-14 school year, the Florida Department of Education capped the full-time equivalent, or FTE, to 1 FTE per student. This is known as FTE recalibration. Each year, school districts report all FTE instructional minutes to the DOE, and then the DOE combines that FTE reporting using a common student identifier, and the Department of Education recalibrates all reported FTE to equal 1 FTE per student. The model the state uses, at any time a student takes a virtual course while currently enrolled as a school brick and mortar student in their district, is to divide the FTE equitably, assuming that a student is taking a full course load. According to the DOE, that full course load is 6 classes. Within the FTE general instructions for FTE that is set forth every year, a student taking a virtual course, again, shares this FTE that they've completed, and it is equivalent to 1/6 if a student is taking a full year course, or 1/12 if a student is taking a semester-long course. Because of our model of having our secondary schools on a 7-period day, I called the FLDOE to confirm that mathematically we can make the assumption that they are going to divide that FTE by 7 periods, considering that is what we offer here in Martin County School District. So students taking a 7-period day, if they were to take one of those courses virtually or with Florida Virtual School as their provider, it would be equivalent to 1/7 of an FTE for a full year course, or 1/14 of an FTE for a semester-long course. If a student were to take 8 classes, it would be divisible by 1/8 for a full year course and 1/16 for a semester-long course, and so on and so forth. Because a student can start and end a virtual course whenever they want to within a school year, including over the summer, Florida Virtual School refers to their semester-long courses as segments, because you can start in November and end in February. You can start in July and end in October. It doesn't follow the same school calendar as we do. So to make it understandable to the public and to their constituents, they refer to it as a segment. Historically, we had over 1,900 segment courses completed by Martin County School District students who are enrolled in our schools. This data does not represent homeschool, charter, or private school students. As of February 21st, 2024, our traditionally enrolled students have already completed 1,056 segments of courses. Currently, we have 577 students who are enrolled in 927 courses, which tells me that we will continue on the historical trajectory of having over 1,900 segment completions for the 23-24 school year. This many segment completions is already having an impact on the amount of FTE that is staying within Martin County School District. When pulling the data for the 577 students who are taking those enrolled courses actively currently right now, and totaling up the number of courses that they were taking, both the median and the mode for those students was 8 classes. So I am able to make a fairly confident estimate that if we look at our math and our shared FTE based off of an 8-period day, we will hit those students who may be taking more virtual classes versus less virtual classes. Based on this calculation, I was able to do some math. Thank goodness I'm curriculum and instruction. We know that based on student data allocation, which is currently $5,139 per student. That's before we do anything and change anything on our end with the state. That's base student allocation given to us by the state of Florida. 1/16 of that is equivalent to 0.62 of an FTE, giving us a shared FTE amount of $318.62. Knowing that we are on track to complete over 1,900 segment completions, if we take the average of the last 4 years, which is 1,936, and multiply that by the $318.62, which is the amount shared per course, the state will share $616,848.32 of our students' FTE with Florida Virtual School. While there are many ways to capture this $616,000 in FTE that we are currently sharing or having to give to Florida Virtual School, I would like to share information about franchising with FLVS. The benefit of franchising with no FLVS is that there is no upfront cost directly to Florida Virtual School to start a franchise. FLVS charges between $43 and $80 per segment completion, depending on the course. FLVS shared with me that they do have some third parties creating that curriculum, so that's the difference in the cost differential right there. Their courses that they create themselves based off of Florida state standards are the $43, but they do offer CTE courses, they offer career courses, and they offer some College Board or advanced placement courses, which have some of those higher price ranges. I want to point out and remind everyone that the state pays per completion, but FLVS will be charging as a franchise fee when the student is either active in the course for more than 30 days or when a student completes more than 20% of their course. I believe this is why it's important to go with FLVS, because when we do franchise with them, we automatically get some automatic supports, such as specialists, support representatives for our families, our teachers, and our students. We have a district relations manager that would be assigned to Martin County Schools. It would also include all of the teacher training to ensure that we're capturing those students before they continue on over that 20% if they feel like this is not the course they are going to be taking. It also does some quality and assurance checks, as well as, for me, one of the most important factors is their academic integrity. They are able to have systems in place already to scan if a student is plagiarizing or reusing some of the work that they may have even used in our brick and mortar classes. Anything that's submitted either online, digitally, or within their FLVS courses. This is all included within that franchise fee of, again, between $43 and $80. So the next question I asked myself was, well, what are our students taking? If we had over 1,900 completions, what classes are our students enrolled in? So I was a little surprised to see that the same courses over and over again were listed. I don't know why I was surprised, but I was. But over the last 4 years, it was driver's ed, Hope, Spanish, and some form of either algebra or geometry were our top-rated 5 courses. The data for 22-23 is looking very similar. The top box, you will see the enrollment status of C, which means that students have already completed these courses, and the bottom box are the enrollment status of either A, CI, or RTI, which is their active contact instructor for one reason or another, or their RTI process. This data was as of October 2023, so our completions are much higher at this point. The completion data of that 1,000, I think it was 1,056 was as of February 21st, so just a few weeks ago. So what does that mean for us financially? As I shared earlier, the courses fall between $43 and $80 per course, depending on the course. If this is the direction of the board we would like to go, our top courses would include driver's ed, which does have a higher franchise fee. It's $69 for that course. Hope, which has a franchise fee of $43, and then a K-12 Spanish course, which has a franchise fee of $43. It would be divided by elementary Spanish or Spanish 1, Spanish 2. The beauty of Spanish is that it is a certification, that is a K-12 certification, so we could potentially have one teacher be able to teach all 3 of those levels. Based on the average number of completions for only these 3 courses, we would have the potential of capturing $286,681.98 of that FTE, instead of having it being shared with the state via FLVS. So we know that franchise fees are not our only cost. We have to create an estimated budget that included some instructional costs as well for us to review. So my recommendation would be to capture the enrollments as early as this summer of 24-25. Based on this data, I do believe, again, driver's ed, Hope, and Spanish are the 3 subject areas that we look at. We would have some sort of part-time teacher, which would be an estimate of $25,000 per teacher. Their hours would be from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. if they were already working in our classrooms. They were already a Martin County School District teacher. This models the FLVS hours of 4 to 8 p.m. And then we know our data, it was based off of our currently enrolled students. So our currently enrolled students are going home to take these courses. So 4 to 8 p.m. would mirror their working hours that they are working on the courses that I showed as well. And then over the summer, we would model to an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. during that summer, again, to model that FLVS timeframe and experience for those families and students who are currently taking FLVS. Our teachers would be available for them as well. So what I have before you is an estimated budget analysis sheet. And again, if we do nothing at all and make no changes, we would be potentially continuing to share about $616,000, give or take, every school year. If we make the one change of piloting or adding those 3 courses of driver's ed, Hope, and Spanish, we could potentially, including the costs for teachers already included, at 3 teachers, 1 for driver's ed, 1 for Hope, 1 for Spanish, at $25,000, which includes salary and benefits, we could potentially capture up to $211,681.98. Now, I know I want to be a little realistic as well. We may not get all of those off the bat. So what I did in yellow was I estimated at a 50% enrollment. If we are able to capture even 50% or half of that, and still have the operating cost of the FLVS franchise, as well as the operating cost of our instructional personnel, we could still potentially capture $68,000. The next year, we may look into adding an algebra or a geometry to capture a little bit more and offer a little bit more for our families. Because again, while this presentation talks a lot about our budget, I think it's very important that we are offering what our students are needing. And if they're already enrolling in FLVS already, and this is already an option that they are choosing for their courses, number 6, 7, 8, 9, however many, I think it would be prudent for us to offer that with our amazing teachers as well. So the 25-26 budget, I added that algebra and geometry, and then again, I was conservative in my approach, and I said, okay, if we get even half of those, once again, we would increase that teacher allocation to 4, because I would add a math allocation, and then we would still capture about $69,000, making both of those, if we are looking at even 50% enrollment, which I did not add, and I should have added on this list, it would be about $137,000 over the course of 2 years that we have the potential of capturing. And then moving on, we could potentially even add more, like American Sign Language, which is a popular course in our community. Maybe it's a CTE or a career course that's being offered. But at that point, I thought it would be prudent to add an instructional, a coordinator salary, because I hope that this is a booming partnership franchise. And so on that last estimate, I did include 5 teacher salaries, 1 coordinator salary, and although it does capture slightly less at about $40,000 being able to capture, that's at a 70% enrollment. I do believe that by offering this option, we're going to capture way more than what our current enrolled students need. We're also going to capture the needs of our community, maybe some of our homeschool parents who want to take a Spanish course or an Algebra 1 class that they feel that is no longer in their wheelhouse when they get to that higher math. And we could potentially capture outside of our own traditionally enrolled students as well.
Are there any questions from the board? Ms. Roberts?
So, Dr. Kennedy, if I'm reading this correctly, we aren't looking at projecting for a coordinator until we get to the 26-27 year, and then I'm assuming you would make that recommendation based on what our numbers look like for the prior years and what we're taking in as to whether that is warranted at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I feel that with my knowledge of virtual school, as well as I have a phenomenal coordinator already who's doing some things outside of her kind of norm, we would be able to charge this work for a few years to get it up and running, to be self-sustaining and support itself. Ultimately, I wouldn't want any dollars that have already been put aside to something else to sustain this work. I want the virtual school to sustain the virtual school.
Thank you.
Are there any others? Ms. Powers?
So thank you for the presentation. I know we talked through a lot of this yesterday. I'm just curious about the homeschool, charter, and private school students that live in Martin County. How would they be integrated into? Would they pay us? Like how would that system work to attract more students that maybe aren't attending a traditional public school?
Sure. So I actually had that data yesterday, and they are tracking almost identical with our enrolled. So overall, Martin County was sitting at just over 2,100 completions, Martin County as a whole, whether they were traditional, homeschool, charter, public, all of the above. And so that almost doubles. So once a student chooses to enroll in Martin County Virtual, then that FTE is automatically shared. If it is less than 6 courses, it goes back to that 1/6 for a full year or 1/12 FTE per the DOE. But if they are taking any other courses virtually, maybe it's one that we don't offer, then it would be divisible by that. What I have seen is our homeschool elementary students, they're not necessarily taking a traditional course anywhere, so they may be following a homeschool program, and this may be their one course that they're taking, so it would be that same 1/6 for that full year or 1/12.
I guess I'm just a little concerned about the administrative piece. Like, what does that look like with the Family Empowerment Scholarship? So if a homeschool family gets their set amount from DOE, how does that come back to us, I guess, is what I'm...
Sure. So I would have to look into the empowerment money. I do believe that there is some stipulation on if they are taking virtual courses, the amount of either money they receive for that. But that is definitely something I can jot down to find more information about.
Yeah, because I think this will be appealing to those families as well, if we are offering it, especially with a local teacher that is living in the community, that could have office hours or whatever. I just think that that's appealing, but I also want to make sure that we're getting paid correctly, and it's not going to create an administrative burden for us to be collecting money from people.
Right. So I do know that regardless, like it would still get funneled through the state of Florida. So they would recalibrate and do their estimates, because that would be instructional minutes that we would count for and report when we do our FTE reporting every year. So they would take that just like they would any one of our other students. That much I do know. And part of this is also while I think we're going to definitely add that avenue for homeschool, I think it's great as well. I just also wanted to capture money that we are already losing from our K-12 currently enrolled students.
Yeah, I think that, I like the idea of us creating this and creating it slowly. I think that being conservative on the number, because if a student is taking multiple courses, they may want to just enroll in one place. So we might not get every child who wants to do driver's ed, because they're also taking Algebra 1 and they're taking AP English. So they might want to enroll. So I think being conservative on those numbers up front is really important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you so much.
Did you have one? Okay, hold on just one moment.
Yep.
So do we need direction or anything? Or where are we going?
I think this would come back to a meeting, right?
This is going to come back
To
to another.
approve?
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will be moving on to our school board policies. Item number 4.01, policy number 1242 and 3242, professional learning. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations?
Hang on one second.
You have a question, Ms. Robert?
Oh, yeah, I do. On the 3242, Diane, on page 3 of 4, I don't think B is where it belongs. I think that last sentence, for each component is part of A. See what I'm talking about? That last sentence, it says for each component for which in-service points, because it's talking about components, and paragraph A is components. So I think you just need to renumber those paragraphs so that B becomes review, amendment, and submission, and C becomes record maintenance. And then on the next page, on 4 of 4, where it says E, I don't think E is E. I think that sentence moves to the left, and the F, G, H, and I become 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it's right on the other one, so they should be able to, yeah. Okay? Thank you, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Moving on to item number 4.02, policy number 2120, school improvement. Page 2 of 3, early warning signs. We mark C, should read, course failure in English, language, arts, or mathematics during any grading period for students in grades 6 through 8 who earn 2.0 or lower GPA on a 4-point scale during any grading period. Yes, Ms. Roberts?
So in that early warning system section, I think that this paragraph A that's talking about absences, whether the absence is excused or the result of out-of-school suspension, should also include unexcused. And I question whether in C, the course failure in English, language, arts, or mathematics during any grading period needs that additional language about students in grades 6 through 8 who earn a 2.0, because is the intention for it to be all students who receive a failure in English, language, arts, and mathematics, or is it?
Madam Chair, if there's a question there, I'd like to ask that Dr. Kennedy be allowed to come back up to the podium. She may be able to provide clarification on that language.
Absolutely, Dr. Kennedy?
Yes, so historically, the early warning indicators do only go up to 8th grade. When you look at our SIP process and the information and the data that we get for our school improvement plan, the early warning or indicators historically are to grade 8. We can certainly remove that section, though, because that may be good practice for us as a district, but the data that we would receive from the state only goes up to grade 8. So we wanted to mirror that.
So we receive data internally, though, that would tell us about a course failure in ELA or mathematics in any grading period, right?
That's correct.
So as an educational professional, do you think we should only be doing this through 6th through 8th, or should we be doing it?
No, I can absolutely see your point to include, actually to remove that altogether. I would like to even see it in, if we ever go to knowing 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade course failure would be appropriate. So I would remove that portion. The only reason why it was added was to mirror the language from the school improvement plan that's provided each year.
Okay, so then I would be interested in just having C say course failure in English, language, arts, or mathematics during any grade period, and adding the unexcused to A.
Okay.
I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
Marcia, or Ms. Powers, do you have anything? Or Ms. Pritchett?
I don't have anything.
Okay. All
All
right.
okay with that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on to our next item, number 4.03, policy number 5111.01, homeless students. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Ms. Roberts, go ahead.
So on page 2 of 8, when you talk about, so you have the definitions up there of A through D, unaccompanied homeless, and then D includes the migratory children who are living in circumstances described in A through C above. I'm unclear as to why we need the additionally pursuant to federal and state law. Children and youth who are experiencing homelessness also include migratory children who are living in circumstances A through D above. I mean, isn't it?
Redundant,
Isn't it the same thing?
basically,
I mean-
because we're not classifying homeless into subcategories. Sorry. When you put D by itself, you're separating out migratory children, whereas we don't distinguish between their children that are homeless. So why would we include that statement is all? I agree with that.
Yeah.
We're not,
Mr. Main?
yeah, sorry.
Mrs. Powers' microphone is on. I'm not sure if she wanted to go first or if, okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm having trouble opening it, my
Got it.
computer, my internet.
That line can certainly be removed. It was just in there from Neola, so if it
Yeah.
is the pleasure of the board to remove that item. that
Because I
line.
think it's already up there. It says what homeless youth are defined at. It's A through D already. So I don't think it,
I agree with that, needing to be removed.
And I believe somewhere else in the document, it states we don't separate out.
correct.
They're children, so I
Yeah.
agree.
There should be no differentiation. Ms. Powers, did you have anything? Okay. All right. Ms.
Thank you.
Roberts, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4.04, policy number 5136, wireless communication devices. And this is a new policy, but one that has been previously discussed. And before I get into the recommended changes, I wanted to share that I have had several parents come to me with concerns since we last discussed this. And they were concerned that their student could not check their phone during breaks or lunch, because most days they need to send them a message about transportation change or reminders of the day, et cetera. So I promised each of them that I would share their concerns today. Would anybody be willing to discuss this further, or would you just like for me to move on to the recommended selections? Ms. Roberts?
So I liked the language on on page 3 of 4 at the bottom that says, parents, guardians are advised that the best way to get in touch with your child during the school day is by calling the school office, and students may use school phones to contact parents, guardians during the school day. My concern is, so imagine, so there's two different pieces. One is if you don't have it completely turned off, right? So so let's say I have it on vibrate or I have it on mute or something, and I'm sitting in a classroom and my phone vibrates. That now what I do as a student is I say, I need to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom, I check my phone in the bathroom, because I was expecting my mother to tell me she's gonna pick me up or do something. No, it's my cousin sending a picture. I go back to the classroom, 5 minutes later it vibrates again, I'm back in the bathroom, checking my phone again. I mean, I think I think we have to decide as to where our standard is, as to whether you want phones off, or you want phones on, or where you want to be. I mean, I think I can see that there's going to be an enforcement issue. I mean, I can't see, as children are going into the bathroom, you don't want somebody having to stand outside the bathroom saying, are you going to the bathroom, or are you going to check your phone? I mean, give me your phone so you can go to, I mean, that isn't going to work. So I don't know what you all think, but.
Ms. Pritchett?
You kind of opened up the,
Microphone.
I have it on. Can I be heard? Okay. This opens up code of conduct issues. And if this policy is adopted, we have to change our code of conduct. I think there is a place for the children to have their phones, but I think it has to say outside of instructional time. So they can't check their phone in the classroom when it vibrates. They're not permitted to do that. But if they're at lunch or somewhere else that is not classroom time, that's when it's appropriate. But I don't,
Non-instructional.
right, so checking students may use school phones to contact parent guardians during the school day opens it up to the entire school day. So I would not want that box checked.
Well, I think it goes back to needing to decide, do we want to use language in option A, or do we want to use language in option B on page 1
Okay.
and 2?
So I'm of the opinion that we should not allow students to have their phone on. I understand where parents are coming from, and kids are gonna go and they're gonna sneak in the bathroom and they're gonna call their mom. They don't wanna go to the office and call their parent, or the parent doesn't wanna call. It's easier, I get all that. But there are so many more things happening on the phones during the day than worrying about, then what time are you gonna pick me up from school today? Kids are being bullied. There are pictures being shared, there are videos being taken in our schools and shared on social media. And I'm not talking about the good stuff. I'm talking about the bad things that are happening. So I am of the opinion that they should have their phone off during the normal school day. After school, if they're at practice or whatever for a sport, their coach can determine how they use their phone after school, but I am just not, I mean, if a child is denied access to reach out to their parent during the school day, then we need to address that administratively, but there are too many bad things happening on phones on our campuses that we can't, okay, now you can. And I think there has to be some responsibility on the parents' part, and if students get caught using their phones, it's taken and the parent has to come pick it up. The whole, like, I can't, I'm working, and it's like, well, when you break rules out in the world that we're setting these kids free into, you're not gonna tell the judge that, oh, I can't show up today because I don't have a ride, or I can't show up because my parents won't come with me. That's not how it works. There has to be some responsibility. We can't do this alone. I have never felt this strongly until recently about the phones. And if a student needs to call their parent, then they can go to the office or they can ask their teacher permission if it's an emergency. I have no problem with any of that. But just having unfettered access to your student during the school day, it's the same at work, when we go to work every day. You can't sit and expect to take personal calls all day long because, yeah, maybe something quick, but there has to be some permission granted because there's just way too many bad things happening during the school day with phones. We can't control what happens outside of that, but we can control what happens on our campuses.
Thank you. Do you want to say something?
And
Ms. Rob?
just one other thing, I think we should wait until I would like to hear from the Code of Conduct Committee. I want to hear what they think, because I don't want to start the process of redoing this
Yes.
and then them come back and say, well, that we said this or we recommend something. I kind of want to understand how they feel about it. What do they think the consequences should be when students break the rules? Because I know the person that I appointed, I had two things that I was most concerned about in their review. One was cell phones and the other one was vaping. So I want to hear what they come back with after having the discussion among themselves and what their expectation as parents and community members are.
I think that's a great idea. Is everyone else on board with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so then we will postpone this one until we hear back from the Code of Conduct and get some direction and clarification. Thank you.
Do we know when the code of conduct is going to be done?
Dr. Estes?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh, yes?
No. You might have to get
It's on,
closer.
right? Okay. So we finished up and we, yes, you can't hear me, Ms. Pritchett?
Yeah, you got to
Can
get,
hear me now?
That's better.
you're going to have to
Yeah,
get
you're gonna have to real
closer.
close.
Sorry. So we had, did some preliminary voting yesterday to wrap up the community feedback piece yesterday. And what the plan was to move forward with bringing to the board in an April workshop the recommendations from the committee members and the feedback from them, as well as some other recommendations that the Student Services group had looked at as some other things that need to be addressed in the Code of Conduct that kind of may be better explained. One of the things that also I had looked at is some other Code of Conducts from other districts, and there is definitely, when you're talking about the cell phone piece, I would say there's some really good information from another neighboring county that has very clear and explicit instructions about those minor offenses, the major offenses, and having the phone off from like bell to bell. And so I do think there's more changes this year, which we want to bring it to you all in April so that we can have more time so that April, May, June, that we can hopefully get a working code of student conduct in place by the school year. So yes, the plan is to bring it forward. I think it's a great idea to do it simultaneously. And if anyone would like to meet with me at any point to go over some of the other recommendations, I think it would be a great idea for us to sit down even before that. Well, actually, April's really close, but anytime. So I definitely agree with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
Is
welcome.
this going to cause any issues if we don't we have a policy in place? We are just going to hopefully make it better when we have a recommendation. Yes, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 4.05, policy number 5410, student progression. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Yes, everyone's good? Great. Moving on to the next one, item number 4.06, policy number 5410.01, promotion, acceleration, placement, and retention. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations and superintendent's recommendations? I guess just Neola. Everyone good? Great, thank you. Item number 4.07, policy number 5460, graduation requirements. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Yes, thank you. Item number 4.08, policy number 5465, general education development, GED tests. So page 2 of 2, we have GED coordinator, Melissa Eversdyke, coordinator of adult education. With her number, you'll fill in 772-219-1200, extension 43161. And her email is eversdm@martinschools.org. The board okay with accepting these Neola recommendations? Great, thank you. Item number 4.09, policy number 5513, care of school property. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Do you have something, Ms. Robert? I don't know, let me look real quick. Okay. Actually, you know what? That's the one, hold on. Yeah, never mind. No, I'm good. You're good? Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 4.10, policy number 5517.01, bullying and harassment. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations?
I think this one should wait until after our code of conduct as well.
Agreed. Ms. Pritchett, do you agree? Yes, I do. Ms. Roberts? All right, thank you. We'll hold off on that. Item number 4.11, policy number 5710, student and parent complaints. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Yes. Ms. Roberts? Okay. Item number 4.12, policy number 5771. It's search and seizures, and we will be pulling this one tonight, and it'll come back at a later date. Item number 4.13, policy number 5780, student and parent rights. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Yes. Is everyone good? Yes. Okay. Ms. Powers, are you still looking? Okay. Okay, item number 4.14, policy number 5782, parent guardian notification and permission, school-sponsored events and activities. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Good? Ms. Roberts?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Item number 4.15, policy number 7544, use of social media. And this is a new policy. Is this something we would also like to hold off?
I think we should pull this one. In light of the new House bill that was passed, I think we're going to have some change, that we're going to need to incorporate some of the changes that were made in that as well, regarding age restrictions and parental authorization and all those types of things. So I think we need to hold off on this one.
Okay.
as well.
Ms. Pritchett, did you pull your thing down?
Sorry, I just want to find the,
I wanted to know if anything contained in here would also move over to professional standards, should employees and district-approved volunteers not abide by. So I was wondering if Sherry Richardson would come when we go over this. So, because I think whatever we decide should also be incorporated into professional standards. If there's infractions, they need to be updated to align with the social media policy.
We'll check policy to see if there's a separate policy for professional standards with our adults, but absolutely. we
Right,
can-
I wasn't telling you, I'm just saying it needs to align with professional standards if it's necessary. That's all.
Understood. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And probably some of the bullying and harassment we need to look at to make sure that we're across the board being consistent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, you good? Okay. Item number 4.16, policy number 8405, school safety and security. Page 9 or 10, it says select option 1. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations?
I know this one's going to come back. I don't know what the effective date of the new safety and security law will be, if it'll be July 1, but this one will be coming back to us as well with those updated changes that were just approved this legislative session.
We will hold off on that as well then. Everyone okay with that? Okay. Item number, let's see here, 4.17, policy number 8410.01, critical incident response. This is a new policy. Is the board okay with accepting the Neola recommendations? Are we going to
Frank, do you know, was anything in the legislation this session that, I don't think anything specifically related to critical incident response was included in the new legislation? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone good with what we currently have? Sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes our policies. Just a reminder that everyone will see these policies a couple more times as we bring them back to the board meetings for approval. We will now have open to the board. Good? Good? Ms. Pritchett? Okay. Ms. Powers?
I'm good. I will mention that. I know that the people that were here for the pool are gone now, but I think it would be really great. I know that Dr. Miller has talked to some parents. I know that Ms. DeShazo has talked to some parents or community members about the pool and giving more in-depth information that is really hard to show all the time on paper. So I would encourage them to reach out to the district and have those conversations and talk about, the true costs and utilization. And as we gather more data, I know it's going to come back as presentations in the future. But I think they should start those conversations with our staff to better understand, because I don't know that they have 100% of the information that we all know. And obviously, as we get more information, we're going to be sharing that publicly at meetings. But I know that if they want the information, sometimes it's easier to have a conversation than it is to have this. So just encourage them, even though they're not here. Hopefully they're listening.
I wasn't going to say anything, but since you mentioned it.
Go ahead, Ms. Pritchett.
I believe I saw that we're having a workshop on April 2nd, and you would be bringing back information to us. Am I correct about that?
We can bring that information back. I did send the board information based upon the request that the board had asked. Actually, you've got two messages, because I did hear back from the coach at Martin County High School as to the actual schedule, the schedule of activities, both practices and competitions for the swim and dive team for Martin County. So I think the amount of meetings and dates and those things were important as well. So there were two messages that went out right before this board meeting.
I was just going to say, I thought I saw something about April being a workshop, and if that is the case, maybe we could advertise to the community, hey, this is when you will hear what we have to tell you, right? I don't know how,
Or what about if we add it to our information share, not board information share, but the staff reports, and letting people know that as we get more information about that subject that they're interested in, that will be posted in that section? And if you want a staff member to speak to it at the board meeting, maybe that would be a good time, but at least have information about the pool posted in that section.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Maine, do you have anything?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, well, if that's it, this workshop is now adjourned.